Gold trails and ghost towns. Share the adventures of our early pioneers as we explore the development of the Pacific Northwest and beyond. With your host, Mike Roberts, and historian Bill Barlee.
Welcome to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. This show, I don't know why I like the photograph show more than other kinds of shows, but Bill Barlee is our historian and collector of photographs and artifacts and memorabilia and stuff like that. Whenever you bring in these photographs, I mean, it always starts like this just looks like just a plain photograph, and then suddenly a whole world of history opens up.
You bet.
You bet. Now, I mean, should we just start right off with the first one? First of all, tell me when you know you've got a good photograph and what you look for.
The image has to be very clear. There should be some notation on it. Always, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, Mike. You should know the name of the individual. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have a clue. You look for signs. You look for the date of the individual. And you look for unusual things in the photograph.
Yes.
And if it's a one of a kind, it's quite valuable. So people should not loan their photographs. They should make sure that most of this should be in the archives. Eventually, my collection will probably go to the archives.
Okay. For example, we have this great photograph of what looks like just a wonderful mansion.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, oh, it must be Victoria, you know, one of the wealthy from Victoria.
Yeah.
Really, what is it about?
Well, it's about one of my favorite Indian chiefs, a guy called Chief Dudaward. And Dudaward was in Port Simpson, which was originally Fort Simpson, way up there beyond Prince Rupert and kind of halfway between the Charlottes and Portland Canal in mining area. Now, he was a very wealthy man. He was an interpreter. He was a Tlingit chief. But where did he get his money?
How did he build a house that size?
We don't know. He called it Eagle House, and whether he was a member of the Eagle clan, I don't know. There's another story up there that says that he saw an eagle perching on the turret of the house, and that's why he called it Eagle House. His daughters married well. I mentioned it very briefly in one of the program. They married stern-wheeler captains, when these were the princes of the rivers then. He was famous all through his life. Where did he get his money? I think he got his money probably from the Charlottes, from some of the gold in the Charlottes. I'm guessing this house was taken out of a book of houses, and that was the most expensive house, and he said, I'll take that one. Yeah,
because I asked you, I said, with that sunburst just above the windows, I thought, was that a McClure or a Rattenbury? And you said, no, it came out of a catalog.
That's right, it did.
And there's a man standing on the lawn down in the front there. Do you think that's him?
I would think so.
Well,
I would
that's
think so.
Fascinating.
Unfortunately, it burned. It is no longer in Port Simpson.
Ah, that's terrible. Interesting, and to the average viewer, it would just be a big house somewhere, but it has mystery and intrigue associated
And it launches
with it.
me on a journey or a quest. I want to find out where he got all the money.
That's all you need.
Well, I'd like to have it.
That's
nice
perfect.
Story.
Okay, picture number one. Now, if you happen to know where he got all his money, we'd gladly take the phone call. This one right here, it just looks like sort of one of the rattiest main streets, but this was the big copper city.
This was the next butte in British Columbia. This was Phoenix. We discussed Phoenix in two other different programs over the last 10 years. And this is the main street of Upper Town in Phoenix. And it isn't that ratty, Mike, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah?
They had a brewery. They had, and this is an example. This is the Phoenix Brewery. And if you get one of their siphon bottles, they're worth about $500 or $600.
Well, even finding just
and it says
a label.
Phoenix Brewing Company, Phoenix, BC.
That's right.
Very important.
Contains only malt and hops, absolutely pure. They have the same publicity, the same advertising
That's
as
right.
modern beer purveyors.
And if you move your finger, you'll see Phoenix Brewing, Phoenix, BC. There's Phoenix Brewing in Victoria. There's also Phoenix Brewing in Phoenix, BC. That's very important. And Phoenix was quite wealthy.
Yeah.
It had 2 railroads. It had an opera house that seated 1,000 people. It had an arena that seated 1,000 people. It has 2 jewelry stores right on the one side of the main street. Black
George
is one
E. Day, jeweler.
Yeah, Day is one, and just up the street is Black's.
And Boyle the druggist was right there too.
Yeah, and Black is just beyond that.
And what's that clock-like structure right on the middle there? That's
the
the other
jeweler's
jeweler.
always, that's right, that's Black.
Stage office, the Bellevue Hotel.
Yeah.
And look at those kids wandering along that boardwalk.
And kids loved a boardwalk, and they loved a mining town. I know I was brought up in one.
And you, the boardwalk, harbored many a treasure for you.
Sure did. Oh, sure did. We used to go onto the boardwalks and pick up all sorts of silver coins, occasionally a gold coin.
Yeah, that would be just the best treasure of all.
They would look for the gold coins.
So here we have a photograph taken when in Phoenix's
1910.
history?
1910, maybe 1912.
Well, that is just, that takes you back. Does
Yeah.
it stimulate any particular quest for a treasure story in your mind?
Not that one.
Not that one.
But there are some that, as we go along, we'll...
Okay. This is a fine-looking ship. Is this the Esquimalt, or is it in Esquimalt?
This is the Esquimalt, in Esquimalt, and this was the British were showing their presence on the Pacific coast, mostly to the Americans, and so they brought this in, a 20-gun ship, and typical of the British ships of the line, 1860s, late 1860s, probably taken by Maynard.
And lots of firepower.
Oh,
Just
yeah, lots of
keeping,
firepower.
make sure everybody stays to their side of the harbor.
That everyone understood.
Oh, good. The British, and a fine. Do we know anything about the photographer here?
I think Maynard,
Yeah?
yeah.
Fine piece of work. And, of course, we have to remember that Esquimalt Harbor and Victoria Harbor was one of the largest on the West Coast.
Oh,
it was
sure.
one of the largest in the world on
Yeah,
the
it
West
was.
Coast.
Yeah, yeah, very impressive.
Very impressive. Here we have, from Comox, British Columbia, circa what year do you figure for this
About
longhouse?
1880 probably.
And look at that totem.
Yeah.
A man is apparently wearing a waistcoat and a top hat.
Wearing a waistcoat and top hat. Either somebody he knew or copied. The Indians were great mimickers in many of their totems. You'll see actual images from real life. So it may have been an individual they had dealt with. We don't know. Unfortunately, there was no detail on this, and that's unfortunate.
And the fact that this is Comox, you know, for some reason I think of the longhouses and the
Yeah.
and the totem poles as being a Queen Charlotte sort of a thing. But they existed down on even the central part of the
Well, sure.
island and below.
Right from Alaska, right down to the state of Washington.
And would there be different functions for that? The small totem with the man in the top hat
Well,
is much different than the one that's
some
very
are clan
tall.
totems, some are house totems, and so on. And read Marius Barbeau, and he will give you all the information on totems that you'll ever want to know. Volume 1, Volume 2.
And you know, it's the construction of these houses that is solid slab cedar.
Yeah.
That's split, and look at the width of some of that.
Yeah.
That is like
Oh, yeah.
2-foot slabs
Oh,
of
course.
cedar.
No, magnificent work, really.
The craftspeople on the coast, the native craftspeople, awesome ability.
Oh, yes, and it's recognized all around the world now.
All right, we're going to have to take a break here. Otherwise, you know, we could just go on and nobody would ever pay the bills. But we're going to come back in just 2 minutes with more photographs from Bill's collection. Don't go away. Welcome back to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. Mike Roberts and Bill Barley with you, and today we're taking a look at some of Bill's favorite photographs, courtesy of the BC Archives and your own personal
own
collection
personal
and other locations as
Yeah.
well. This one is a mystery.
This one has puzzled me for over 20 years. Picked it up out of an album. Everything else in the album was identified.
Now look at, in the middle
This
of
wasn't.
town, cordwood by the thousands of cords of cordwood.
Yeah, definitely.
What do they need cordwood for? Why do they need that much cordwood?
Well, there's obviously a plant very close by, and you can see the plant.
It's just down there to the left. It's got those, what, 5 smokestacks
Yeah, I
coming
think
up
it has
from
something to do with coal. And just beyond it is another town very close by.
Way down around the
That's
corner
right.
there.
This individual who owned the album had been in Utah. All his identification was in British Columbia. He did not identify this town. I don't know why.
Now that, I mean, Boundary Creek, you know, the hills
No,
are right there.
Mike,
It looks at, no?
believe me, it is not. I know the background. It is not in British Columbia. I don't think it's in the foothills of Alberta. There's no American flag showing either.
I don't see any flags flying on any
No,
of the houses.
which is interesting.
That
I think
looks
it's
like
a
a-
Mormon town in Utah.
Now that's a major building right downtown, and just across the street from it looks like maybe a big hotel or a big major office.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, so if anybody can identify that neck of the woods, you figure it's coal in Utah.
I think so.
Very interesting. And all of the houses are...
Hopefully an educated guess.
All right. Now, this is one of these beautiful little keepsakes in itself.
Sure.
A colored, hand-colored, what do you call it?
Postcard.
Postcard. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for filling that in. And who's... Fire Hall, Vancouver, British Columbia.
About 1909.
They're
This
very-
is when they got their new mechanized equipment in, Mike.
Look at there, just as proud of it. They're all
Are
standing
they-
there.
Are they ever?
Buttons, brass polished, and away they go.
Yeah.
And this is important for 2 reasons. They obviously sold these by the hundreds.
Oh, yeah, sure they did.
But on the back, of course, Vancouver, this is June 28th. This was sent at 2:30 in the afternoon. Dear friend.
Yeah.
Why would they say dear friend as opposed to
Typical
the
of
name?
the day, very formal.
Privacy?
Very formal.
I hope you are all well. I'm coming over on Friday's boat. If you have no objections, love to all. A. Hicks. Look at that.
Yeah.
Very nice indeed. Okay, so that just says to you, state of the art, that particular year, fire department proud, and
Sure.
what's going on. Now, the Mucho Oro mine
Yeah.
has to be, I mean, one of
Williams
the
Creek.
most famous. It's in Williams Creek?
Produced about, probably, the records say less, but probably about 2 tons of placer gold, Mike.
These
2
guys
tons.
should look happier than
They
do.
should all have a grin on their face.
Yeah.
They don't. But they should all have a grin on their face. And you can see 3 Chinese on the left-hand side of the photograph,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. And there are about, I think, 15 people in the photograph.
Now, there's a guy holding what looks like a hay rake. What would he use that, or a hay fork? What would he use that hay fork for? That guy, is that part of the gravel agitation
That's
equipment?
for forking down and getting the boulders out of the sluice box.
That's what that
Sure.
fork is for.
Yeah.
And the other guys have sort of typical pick and shovel kind of activities. And that big, what is that, a Cornish wheel that they call that?
That's an overshot wheel, yeah, Cornish
Yep.
wheel.
And they would use that for doing what?
Well, bringing the water in. You have to have water if you're going to run the sluice boxes.
So, and would it also turn something? Would
Oh,
it
yes.
operate the shakers or something?
Yeah, no shakers. Just run the water into the sluice box.
All
Bring
right.
a line into it. That's an overshot wheel.
And so the Mucho Oro, very successful mine.
One of about 30 spectacular mines in Williams Creek.
Now, this is another postcard, but it has this massive skull of a mastodon on the front. Mammoth skull.
And it also has, it's a mastodon skull, that's
Right.
true. It also has, that's about 7 feet on the tusks. It has some information, discovered at 42 feet below.
Right at the bottom in little tiny print at a depth of 42 feet on number 5 below, AMAX Discovery, Quartz Creek, Yukon Territory, March 5th, 1904. Look at the size of that
Yeah.
tusk, 7 feet 6.
And they came across, still coming across the remains of mastodons, some of them beautifully preserved in the Yukon, some of them beautifully preserved.
And that one has never been filled in by anybody on
No,
the back, so
no.
fascinating. This clapboard, false front, something or other.
Pretty crude.
Yeah, pretty crude. Basics first of its kind.
Yeah. Well, it's built by a guy called Jim Bowes
Is
in
he in
Silverton.
this shot anywhere?
Yeah, I think he's with the horse. I'm not sure. I can't find a picture of Jim Bowes. I'd love to. He was a well-known character in the Slocan, and in fact, a man wrote him back about this photograph. A man in Nelson found the photograph, a guy called St. Dennis, and he wrote Bowes, who was in Vancouver at that time, and said, Bowes, can you identify any of these individuals? He wrote him a quarter of a century later. Bowes identified all 23 individuals, including the guy who's blurry on the left-hand side of this photograph. He identified all of them by first and last names and said, and he finished up the letter, but I'll be damned if I can remember the name of the horse.
And there was his horse.
It was a quarter of a century later.
Did you remember the dog? You have a theory that there's a dog in every one of these pictures.
Well, there usually is a dog.
And
When you're a
there he
saloon,
is.
there's a dog.
There he goes. So
Yeah.
Bowes was a great character, a gambler, I understand.
He was a gambler and a very successful gambler, knew nothing about it, and would always just take a long shot and usually win. And he was an astonished guy. He came from the Slocan Valley right into Kelowna and established the Lakeview Hotel in Kelowna right next to where the Sternwheeler docked.
For heaven's sake.
And then went down, sold the Lakeview and retired in Vancouver.
So you say he was a gambler but knew nothing about it. He just would take any bet.
See, which-
and if a guy said it's black, he'd say, I'll take it's white.
Yeah, that's right. As long as there's some sort of chance, and he'd invariably win. Bet $100 at a time. That was a lot of money then.
Bowes.
Yep, Jim Bowes, B-O-W-E-S.
All right. Is this an Indian graveyard?
Yes, it is.
Where?
Kitwankual. And typical of the graveyards in that Skeena River country, in fact, all the way along the coast in many instances, but mostly in the north coast. They have those grave houses. Still see them in Kitwangaw, Kitwankual, Kitchigukla, and all through that Skeena country, and it's rather fascinating, absolutely
Now,
fascinating.
a little earlier we saw a totem pole carved in the form of the Boston man with a
Yeah.
top hat and waistcoat. This looks like Russian architecture. Did they take some Russian styles here?
Yeah, there's a little bit of influence from Alaska, but not a lot, Mike. I
Yeah.
mean, that goes back a long, long ways in that north country. So, and it's really quite fascinating. You can still go into some of those areas and see the old cemeteries, the old Indian cemeteries, and I've always been fascinated with them.
Another shot, this from one of the great gold finds, the White Channel of up in Gold Hill, Yukon
Sure.
Territory.
There's Gold Hill, Chicago, French Hill, all sorts of hills. And that was where they were mining the White Channel, which was an old, ancient run of the original creeks, such as El Dorado and Bonanza and Quartz and all the rest of it. When they hit the White Channel, they hit gold in quantity. Some of these individuals will be making to the equivalent of an individual going out today and making $50,000 a day.
Now, a school for mining could have taken this picture because
Sure.
it's got everything there. What is the smokestack on the right-hand side? You know what that is?
Well, it's almost looking like he has a dory bar, but I'm not sure. I think that may be steam for getting down. I think there's a shaft in that photograph.
That's
Mike.
right, and these guys are
Yeah.
winching on that windlass.
That's right, and so they're getting down through the permafrost, and that's why they'd have to have steam.
All right.
To kind of soften up that earth rather than have hard.
They bring up the stuff, and then look at, there's three other people along the shaker boxes.
Yeah.
What are they called, rocker boxes?
Rockers.
And there they are. They're miles away from the nearest water.
And they're happy, and they're working 6 days a week, and some of them are doing, well, most of them are doing absolutely spectacularly well. Absolutely.
What did you say? I
unbelievable.
was not paying attention. Did you say $50,000?
About 50,000 would be equivalent to $50,000 today. They were making 100 ounces a day, a lot of them. I mean, pretty steadily.
Yep.
100 ounces a day is $50,000 a day today.
This is another beautiful example of Indian sculpture, carving.
Yeah.
And where is this taken?
I think that's the Nimkish area on Vancouver Island, and I think it has a sign on it, Mike. And,
Talan Company Glass, Nimkish Chief.
Nimkish Chief. So he uses some white words there. And again, I think that's 1880s. It may be a little earlier, but it's probably Maynard, I think, and typical of the Indian villages of the time.
And that's right down on the beach. You can see that's the gravel and the broken
Sure.
shells and stuff,
yeah.
and the logs up on the beach.
Yeah.
And look at that carving, just spectacular.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
We're going to
yes.
take a break here. We're going to, because we're rapidly running out of time. But when we come back, some sternwheelers and other things as we take a look at our photo collection today. Welcome back to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. We're taking a look at artifacts, photographs of Bill's collection, and also in the provincial archives. The Bonington, you figure, was the queen of all sternwheelers in British Columbia.
I think so. You can say the Nasukan might have been, or maybe the SS Sycamoose. I think the Bonington was by far the best. It was a magnificent ship and sailed through that West Kootenay country on the Arrows, and it had all the fittings. It really dwarfed the Sycamoose and the Nasukan, who were almost sister ships.
Yeah. And it, of course, a CPR ship, so it had the silver, it had the Chinaware, it had the service
CPR flag.
CPR flag,
Yeah.
one of your favorite things,
yeah.
the CPR flag.
Yeah.
And there it is plying its route up the Arrow Lakes
Yeah.
and looking very proud. Interesting postcard on the back, too, all written in another language to a Mr. Peter Bumowski.
Yes, I think that's probably Ukrainian.
Right on.
Which is interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
This is a photograph of a aboard ship. Would this also be in Esquimalt?
That's in Esquimalt as well.
Who is the man affecting a Napoleonic stance?
So that's the captain.
And would he be British, and therefore why?
He would be British. Why? They were impressed with Napoleon. He was a military genius, and regardless of your race, and they did respect Napoleon's genius, and he thinks he's another Napoleon. He probably isn't.
Now, you can see this is a great one for showing the guns. There's, of course, the guns that point out the side, but they have a wheeled one in the middle. Would they wheel that one up and down the deck for some reason?
I guess so. I'm not that familiar with
hadn't
it.
thought about
I think
that.
that's a Maynard photograph, but those are probably 20-pounders, maybe 16-pounders. I'm not sure. And typical of the ships of the line at that era.
Now, maybe that's why they called it the bridge. Look at it. It just looks like a bridge across the
Sure.
deck that they would be up on.
Of course.
Very interesting
And of
shot.
course, the officers are on the bridge and the men are down below.
Of course.
Or the sailors.
Nanaimo. I knew it was Nanaimo as soon as I saw the bastion there.
Yeah.
But this photograph fascinates me because down in the bottom front, it looks like a camera on a tripod
Yeah,
right
it does,
there.
actually. There's not much doubt about it. I think that's one of his extra cameras. And that's the one that he uses for the very, very formal portraits or photographs. And, of course, it's
He had his
revealing
portable
a-
model up on the hill for
Yeah,
this shot.
I think he did, obviously. Maybe he couldn't carry it up. Obviously, he couldn't carry it very far. And that tells you a lot about Nanaimo of the day. And Nanaimo still has some of those buildings, and that photograph, Mike, are still there. And that was taken about 115 years ago.
That is just marvelous. Well,
Yeah.
we can locate ourselves perfectly from the bastion because that's been kept at that same location.
Sure.
And everything else looked very solid brick buildings in
Yeah.
some places.
It's
And-
changed a bit. The foreshore's changed a bit, Mike.
Well, somebody went and parked the Malaspina Hotel on it
Well,
and
yeah.
other things. And finally, this shot, which again shows coastal native people.
Yeah.
Where would this be taken?
That's Nanaimo, Chief's house in Nanaimo, probably 1880 again, Mike, about 115 years ago, by Maynard, almost certainly, professional photographer, and shows the family there, and they always look very solemnly at the camera. The Indian nations were not too sure of the camera, with some exceptions. And the house post is really quite interesting indeed, and of course massive building structure there.
Well, some native people felt that the camera was actually going to steal their soul. Have you heard that?
Yes, stole their image, stole their soul, and that's why they were a little cautious. And they didn't go around grinning all the time, so they felt they wouldn't grin all the time.
Right. I mean,
And
why?
that's logical. In fact, many of our early photographs of groups are individuals who have a very serious look. They do not grin.
And again, the value of these photographs is that it establishes time and place,
Sure.
clothing, construction techniques, development at that
Yeah.
stage,
Yeah.
personalities, attitudes. I mean, it's a novel, a story could be written about every one of them.
It's clues to a puzzle. And if you get a good photograph, it'll tell you a lot of answers about an area. That maybe a sign is there, Mike. It might be an individual that's recognizable. It might be a mine. It might be a background. It might be anything. And that gives you a clue to the history of the area.
Perfect.
That's why the photographs are extremely important. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, always keep your photographs in a dry, cool place. If you do not expose it to fluorescent light or natural light. Or sunshine for sure, because they will fade and you won't notice it until they're gone. So be very, very careful of your photographs.
And they are treasures, because you see
Sure
them
they
so
are.
often. They're now the material that decorates walls of commercial establishments. And if you want to see, I guess, your family up on one of those, give them the right to use it, but they
Sure.
are your own personal treasures.
Yeah, they are.
Some items that can go along with some artifacts that we've talked about. Nelson, British Columbia. This is a beautiful little piece of glassware. Who do you think was responsible for creating this?
I'm positive that was J.O. Patinid. I just picked this up the other day. I have another one. There were 3 sizes. I have 2 of the 3 cranberry glass. And it has Nelson, BC. And anything that he sold, he wanted to advertise Nelson. He was the major jewelry outfitter in Nelson. He had 2 outlets in Nelson. And this was the kind of thing he would have sold. So that goes in the permanent collection for sure.
These beads, if you are walking along a Vancouver Island beach,
Mm-hmm.
you may absolutely miraculously discover individuals of these.
Yes, and in certain areas you might, and I'm not going to say where, but you would find some of these on some of the old village sites. They're quite valuable. They're called a Canton bead or a Russian bead. They're a blue-faceted bead, and probably made in Canton, I think. They may have been made in Murano, Italy, but I think Canton.
And is this a sort of historically intact, or is this one you've assembled in this
No,
form?
that came intact like that. It was picked up by an Indian. I purchased it many years ago.
Fascinating. If you have photographs, care for them. We'll see you next time on Gold.